What is up, you guys? I'm charmx, and today I'm going to be reacting to Game Theory, the tragic story of Minecraft's zombie pigmen, Piglins, by the game theorists. Now, I always kind of wonder what the frig the Minecraft zombie pigmen are, because they're like humans, but they're pigs, but they're also zombies. It makes absolutely no sense. I've always wondered, so I guess we're going to get the answer today, hopefully. But yeah, with that being said, make sure you guys go subscribe to the Game Theorist. I'll links in the description if you're new. Subscribe, and without any further ado, let's begin.
So, last Minecraft Theory had me doing a lot of tree punching. And I have no doubt that me teaching you how to punch down a tree like you do in Minecraft inspired tens of thousands of you loyal theorists out there to try it for yourself.
I hope that did not happen. That's a lot of injured hands, if that did happen.
Mowing down saplings faster than an overeager lumberjack. Which is why today, I want to start the episode by making amends. Theorists, it's time to stop the punching and start the planting. My friend Jimmy,
Oh yeah, if you guys don't know, Mr. Beast is actually trying to plant 20 million trees, but like obviously he can't do it, so there's actually a fundraiser. I'll actually link to I'll try to link to the fundraiser in the description if you guys want to go help support.
Anyway, with that being said, and us making amend for all the trees that we punched down, it's time to talk zombie pigs.
Yeah, so I will try to link the fundraiser in the description. So if you guys want to go help support, plant some trees, I will link that in the description.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, where, gotta be honest, I am still icing my knuckles after last week. Today, we're continuing our deep dive exploration into the lost lore of Minecraft by looking at what is, in my opinion, the strangest part of the universe, the zombie pigmen. And for me,
it is a strange. Well, what about the zombies in the water? Those are also freaking weird.
Call them out as the strangest is saying a lot, considering this is also a world full of living snowmen and laser-shooting pufferfish. Maybe it wouldn't be so strange if this was a mob that was only a bipedal pig creature that lived in HE double toothpicks, but no, it has to be a zombified bipedal pig living in HE double toothpicks that also carries around a butter sword for reasons, and also has no non-zombified versions of itself left anywhere on the planet. Now that is a weird collection of attributes. And if we're being 100% honest, it's probably because their origins are pretty bizarre. Tall, human-like pigs have been kicking around as an unused idea in Minecraft since the very beginning. A Minecraft user first...
Haven't those zombie pigmen, like, always been in Minecraft? At least from what I can remember. I don't know, maybe they weren't in the beginning and then Notch just added it in.
Came up with the idea for Pigmen way back in 2010, and the game almost used them as the game's villagers a year later. It didn't happen. And in 2012, Notch revealed in the documentary Minecraft: The Story of Mojang that the game's signature creature, the Creeper, was also born out of awkwardly tall pig monsters.
Well, I mean, the creepers were a mistake. I don't have any modeling programs to do the models, and I accidentally made them tall instead of log, so it was like a tall thing with 4 little feet. And that became the creeper. It was supposed to be a pig.
So if I were to guess, the zombie pigmen exist and are connected to creepers, villagers, and normal pigs purely because of a sequence of happy accidents, coding errors, and scrapped ideas that got eventually made into canon. But that's the real story for why zombie pigmen are probably in this game. What we're interested in is the fictional story.
Wait, so you've already uncovered the reason why they are, but now you're trying to go through the lore reason why they are? Would there even be lore at that point? Because if they're just added in by accident, then they might not even be lore around it, and you're just kind of making up things trying to justify why they are in it.
How can these creatures possibly fit into the shockingly deep and surprisingly cohesive lore of Minecraft that we've been building over the last couple of episodes? How do you fit undead pigs from HE double hockey sticks into a tale about an ancient civilization of long-lost builders? I gotta be honest, this one...
Or are they like lost builders or something? Is that what you're gonna get at?
Started as I have no idea how we're gonna explain this, but by the end of my research, I think we got a pretty solid case here, friends. To start piecing together the lore of the zombie pigmen, we first have to look at their in-game behavior for clues. Now, obviously these creatures are most commonly associated with the Nether, but they can, on very rare occasions, appear in the overworld.
Yeah, if you get like a trident, you can get like put like a something on the trident, and then when you throw the trident at like pigs, lightning will hit them and they'll turn into pigmen. So I don't know if that's just an Easter egg or if that's part of the lore.
When lightning strikes within 4 blocks of a pig, a zombie pigman will suddenly spawn. That immediately tells
So it's
us
not
that
even just like the trident, it's just if lightning strikes in general.
2 creatures are in some way connected. That the pigmen, at least at one point in their history, were related to normal everyday pigs.
Who would have guessed? Pigs related to pigs?
Form of psychic link. Now, that might seem absurd to say, but their hostile behavior patterns confirm it. Attack one zombie pigman, and somehow all the others within a massive radius will become aggressive and converge on Steve. And it's not because they're hearing their attacked friend, since the sounds they make are relatively quiet. And everyone is still aggressive, even if that attack happens in a completely sealed off closed box that should deaden the sound to any outside listeners. The immediacy and aggression of their attack can only mean that they're linked in some way. And lastly, it's also important to note that they don't begin as hostile.
They don't begin as hostile. Sound like my ex-wife. She was nice until she wasn't.
They only turn hostile when they've been attacked. So under normal circumstances, they technically have nothing against Steve. It's only once Steve becomes aggressive that they suddenly have a reason to defend themselves. This admittedly gives us a lot to work with, but it's still just a bunch of loose threads without something to tie it all together. Any theory that I would craft to try and
I don't see how it gives you much to work with. I really don't. Well, I mean, what, they're telekinetic? Or is that telekinetic? Or they can, or is that telekinesis? Or is that, I freaking know, it's one of them. But, you know, they're connected and they were once pigs. How can you build a theory off of that?
Explain it all would be missing that linchpin of evidence that anchors the narrative. But then came this year's Minecon, the Mojang team's annual interactive live stream.
Cringe fest.
All about the Minecraft franchise, complete with discussions about upcoming features, big world premiere announcements, and lots of other stuff.
This is gonna look weird, but you can't hear.
There we go, here we go. Minecon is the best for cringe. I love it.
Hello.
Because you gotta juice that sweet, sweet watch time. And this year, between gooey hands and whatever this was, we were...
Was there no mouth or something? Like, why'd you put that up when, like, there was a mouth? I'm pretty sure there's a mouth or something, right? You couldn't have just put the... Oh, so silly.
Received a ton of new information about what changes are rolling out into the Minecraft world over the next couple of months. Bees, honey blocks, target blocks. But of all the new content, it was the changes coming in Minecraft 1.6, the Nether update, that really caught my attention. Specifically, the new Piglin civilization. Zombie pigmen are no more. Piglins and zombie piglins are here to stay.
What? They're getting rid of zombie pigs? I didn't know that. What? How could you get rid of something that's been in the game for so long? Oh my goodness.
Piglin is actually what we call the Pigmen now. The Piglin is almost like a new civilization that we add to the Nether.
But there was one detail about this mob in particular that caught my attention.
They are actually hostile towards the player. They also don't like wither skeletons.
They don't like wither skeletons, huh? That's an oddly specific detail for them to call out. From writing all of these episodes, I gotta say that so much of piecing together this game's story relies on picking apart spawn conditions and hostile behavioral patterns. Like in any good story, those sorts of details are telling you the relationships between our main characters, as it were. And so hearing Jeb call out the hostility towards one particular mob really stood out to me, especially since...
Was that like a slip of the tongue? Also, are they actually getting rid of zombie pigs? Or are they just adding in piglins as well as zombie pigmen? I hope they don't get rid of it. Could you imagine, like, you know, the amount of zombie pigmen but replaced with piglins? Like, you couldn't even go to the Nether at that point because there are too friggin' many.
As we established during our episode on the Wither skeletons are most likely the remains of the ancient builder race. There are plenty of reasons as to why, but I'm not gonna rehash them here. You can just watch that video if you're interested. But for the piglins to act violently towards Wither skeletons, aka the ancient builders, that was the last detail that I needed. There's hostility between these two groups. Something happened long ago between these two civilizations, and it hasn't been forgotten, even long after both civilizations have largely died off. So let's start putting all these pieces together, shall we? We know that the ancient builders started in the overworld, and at some point they created a nether.
I'm very interested to see how this, how this theory goes. Because so far I'm not really seeing any connection. I also think Matt's probably going to grasp at a lot of straws. And if I can, I would like to disprove his theory. I always like doing that. I always like poking holes. But it depends if it's a loose theory.
Nether portal and started to explore down there. We know this based on the chests and the fortresses that exist down in the Nether that could really have only been built by them. Now, here is where the Piglins come in. At some point, the builders brought their pigs with them into this hostile environment. Again, we know this based on that lightning strike evidence. Pigs and zombie Piglins are connected, and yet there are no pigs in the Nether, meaning that they must have started in the overworld.
And they were brought to the Nether, and then they transformed down in the Nether? Is that okay?
Now, there's two possible reasons for the builders to do this. The first one is simple: food. The Nether, up until the announcement of the new Piglin beast mob...
What? They're adding freaking what? Man, I really gotta pay attention to Minecon. I don't watch Minecon or anything like that. It's always just a cringe fest. I don't want to deal with that. I can't stand cringe. But I didn't know they're adding this to it either. Man, they're adding so much to this game. I mean, I can't blame them. You gotta keep the game fresh. But man, they've added so much. All this news.
Also coming with update 1.6, hasn't had a reliable source for food.
But it's also the food source in Nether, actually. So when you get your food, you can't just have like a pretty little farm. Instead, you need to find this scary, aggressive Piglin beast and get the food from there.
As such, any explorers looking to make a long journey to explore and forage in the area would need to bring a dedicated food source, like say their stable of pigs. Bring them down to the Nether, leave them there, and boom, you suddenly have pig-like creatures in a place where they have no business being. Option 2 for why the pigs would be down there is honestly a bit darker, and it could very well explain the hostility that exists between these two groups. Consider for a second if you had opened a portal to somewhere, some other dimension. You don't
Oh, the Stranger Things reference. I saw that. That was very quick. Subtle.
really know. Are you just gonna hop through? Of course you're not. You're gonna test it. Most likely you're gonna test it on some sort of animal. And believe it or not, but pigs are often the ones being used as human stand-ins for large-scale scientific experiments because of their similar organ size and decay rates. So, to see whether things on the other side of that portal were safe, maybe the ancient builders dropped their pigs on through, sacrificing a few of them in the name of science. Either way, pigs are brought to the Nether, and I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense though. Why would you drop them through if you couldn't get them back? Because what if they survived, right? That doesn't make any sense. If they survived, you wouldn't know until you went in there. So therefore, that kind of voids the point of you putting them in there to begin with. It's probably the first option where they needed food.
I don't know about you, but that would definitely give me a reason to hold a grudge against the people who brought me there, be they human or their undead wither skeleton forms. It also helps explain
Nah, it's the first one.
the aggressive feelings they have towards Steve. Zombie Pigmen aren't aggressive towards Steve because he's not the one who brought them there. On the other hand, Piglins are now aggressive towards Steve because, hey, he's a descendant of that ancient race of builders. So that explains how a pig-like species would get into this hostile supernatural environment and why they might be mad at the wither skeletons, but obviously it's skimming over a few teeny tiny details that might also need to be explained, like how they became walking, sword-wielding psychic warrior zombies. That's a pretty big
Where'd they get their swords to begin with? There's no freaking gold down there.
logical leap to make there, right? Yeah. But, believe it or not, it's one that can be completely explained via nether wart. Remember what I said about the nether not having much food? Well, that's gonna be true for the animals down here too. I mean, really, what would a pig eat down there? Crops require water, and it's simply not possible to place water down in the nether. As such, the only thing that they're gonna be able to eat down there is nether wart. But if that were truly what the builders were feeding their primary food source, you would expect them to harvest it, right? Well, wouldn't you know it, but if you look at the essential elements of a nether fortress, those places that were constructed by the ancient builders as their home away from home as they explored the hostile underworld, you see bridges, a lava well room, and surprisingly, nether wart gardens. Gardens
That is true. I don't know why they're in there.
placed there to harvest the only crop that could be grown in such a hostile landscape. So we know that the builders were indeed harvesting the stuff, but then why is nether wart so important here? Well,
Also, total side note, I like the animation. This is animated, right? This isn't actual Minecraft. This is animated right here. I like that. I've noticed it throughout this. It's a nice little touch.
We also know that the Minecraft universe is one where you quite literally are what you eat. In our Enderman video, I linked the ancient builders being forced to eat the End's native crop of chorus fruit, with them
I remember that.
hating the plant's teleportation abilities. And while yes, that was admittedly just speculation, we don't even have to go into the realm of theories to prove this one. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Mushroom, a cow-mushroom hybrid that only spawns in mushroom field.
I've seen them, yeah. They're also gross. I don't like that. Just, I don't know why, but just the idea of having freaking, like, mushrooms growing on you, that's just nasty. I don't know why, just because, ugh. But yeah, it kind of makes sense that if the pigs were to eat the, you know, the nether wart or whatever it's freaking called, then they would, therefore, you know, transform. But what, did the nether wart transforms them into freaking zombies? And if so, well, that'll explain them turning into zombies. Doesn't explain why they have psychic abilities and why they have a gold sword. Where the freak did they get the gold sword? There is no gold in the nether. Explain that, Matt!
Biomes, aka places where cows are consuming a diet primarily filled with mushrooms. Their milk is mushroom stew, their bodies are covered with the stuff, but we know at their core they began as regular cows, since when you shear them clean, it drops its mushrooms and transforms back into a normal bovine.
Really? I didn't know that.
Again. So, if pigs in the nether were indeed subsisting off a diet entirely made of nether wart, there's a likelihood we could see some of that plant's traits carry over into this animal.
Oh.
About nether wart. Even though I just called it a plant, it looks and acts very much like a fungus. Nether wart grows through 4 stages, with the middle 2 stages looking nearly identical.
The developers should have gave them different colors, kind of like wheat, because it's hard to tell when it's fully grown.
It's a process that very closely resembles the life cycle of a typical mushroom. Netherwort is known as nether stalk in the code, just like many fungi are composed of the fruit body on top and the stalk underneath. It doesn't need sunlight to grow and instead thrives in the warm, dark environment of the nether, just like a real-world fungus. In fact, many of the Minecraft wikis equate netherwort.
That makes sense, but what happens if you eat it? I don't care about the life stages of it. I just care about what happens if you eat it. You know, what are the effects that's gonna bring to you if you eat it, you know?
To the real world
What's gonna happen to the pigs?
Fungus, which, although different in color, does indeed match in terms of design and reproductive behavior. And all of this matters because a diet of netherwort would explain how the zombie pigmen all share a psychic connection. You see, when we think of a fungus, we immediately think of the mushroom that's on top, but in reality, most of a fungus's body is made up of super thin threads known as mycelium. And the crazy thing is that these threads can go for dozens upon dozens of feet, connecting up with a bunch of other plants and fungi. So
oh, so you're telling... Okay, that actually kind of makes sense how they're connected. Alright, well done, Matt. Well done. You kind of caught me off guard on that. Well done. But explain how they got a gold sword, Matt. Explain how they got a gold sword. There's no gold in the nether, okay? There's no gold.
So much so that researchers are now calling this an underground internet of sorts. A literal fungal network that's sharing information across plants, root to root, extending for miles. A wood wide web, if you will. Fungus expert Paul Stamets calls it Earth's natural internet in a
fungus expert? Can you imagine putting that on a resume? So, what do you do? Well, I'm a fungus expert. You what? Yeah, I just don't shower for long periods of time.
2008 TED Talk. And that fungal connection could very easily carry over into our pigs. Just like we see with the mushrooms, eating that netherwort fungus could slowly transform our overworld pigs into an interconnected network of pig-fungus hybrids. And that's not all. Fungal networks also boost their host plants' immune systems. Simply plugging into the mycelial network makes plants more resistant to diseases. Now,
see, I can understand that how it works with like mushrooms and whatnot because they're planted, they're staying still. But even with like a pig, they're moving around, they're not actually connected to anything. So having mycelia or whatever it is that connects them, how does it connect them when they're not connected to the ground where the mycelia could run through? That doesn't make sense. I understand like as a reach, it makes sense, but the more logical you think of it, it doesn't make any sense.
Now look at the nether wart. It's the essential ingredient for awkward potions, the base for over 90% of the game's magical abilities. You know what else is a key ingredient in potions? Glowstone dust, which is also found down in the nether. Potions, mind you, that bestow the drinker all sorts of magical properties, from greater defenses to greater swiftness to, most importantly, fire resistance.
Oh, so if the nether wart or whatever is a main part of the potion, then eating it would obviously have some kind of effect on you. Okay, I see where this is going. I see where this is going.
Fire resistance, just like we see with the zombie piglins who are immune to fire and lava damage. In fact, this theory may even explain why we only see zombified versions of the pigmen and not normal style pigmen, the new piglin race excluded. Obviously, the ancient race of builders came to the nether a long time ago, and when their society collapsed, so did the coming and going from the overworld. As such, no new pigs were being brought into the nether, meaning that everyone we see down here has been down there for centuries at least. That, my friends, is some old rancid pork. So how could a pig survive for that long? Again, the
nether wart makes them like invincible, or you know, it makes it so they can't die?
Nether wart's magical properties. One of its key uses is making potions of healing. It could be literally cannot die from natural causes, or just like the wither skeletons, were brought back to life with the strange soul-saving properties that exist in the nether. Heck, this theory may even explain why they only carry gold swords.
That doesn't explain how they carry gold swords. How did they get the gold swords? So far, everything can kind of be explained to how they ended up like this. You know, the people before would bring the pigs down for food. The pigs had nothing to eat, so they'd eat the nether wart. The nether wart properties would transform them into something like this. And so far, all that makes sense. The whole idea of them all being connected doesn't, like, I can see how it kind of makes sense, but not really, because they aren't planted in the ground where something could connect them all. So it's like, that doesn't make sense how it's like a telepathic connection. Whatever, I'll let that slide. But the fact that they have gold swords doesn't make sense because there's no gold down there. That doesn't make sense, man.
Look at the types of loot that spawn inside the nether fortress chests. The ones...
Wait, so you're telling me that the pigs would go to the chests, open them up, and get the swords? There are not that many swords down there.
Containing supplies brought into the nether by the ancient builders. The only weapons that we ever see spawn in those chests are golden swords. That's it. That's what they brought in and stored in those chests. And since these are pigs at heart with no crafting ability, all the items that you find in there, like iron ingots and diamonds, are completely useless to them. The only thing that they can use to defend themselves is just what they found.
And if they've been out there for hundreds of years or whatever, then they've had time to go and find swords. I guess it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, how does every single pig have a sword? You never see one without a sword, right? How many freaking swords were down there to begin with?
Laying around in their natural environment, left behind by their former masters, the ancient, abandoned golden swords. So just look at all the questions this theory answers. It explains how pigs got into the nether, why they'd be hostile.
That makes sense. This kind of makes sense, not really why they're hostile. Whatever, I'll leave that alone.
To wither skeletons and have complicated feelings towards us as a descendant of the builders. It explains why we see nether wart purposely grown in the nether fortresses, and how a diet of nether wart could produce a psychic link of sorts between all the pigmen in the region. That nether wart, combined with the local glowstone, because let's face it, pigs will eat, or at least try anything, could also explain their fire resistance, their zombification, and we even have ourselves an answer as to why they would
that kind of makes sense too.
All have golden butter swords and only golden butter swords.
That's where it's like, I can see how that is an explanation for it, but like how many freaking butter swords were around before? There are so many zombie pigmen there. You'd think some of them wouldn't have weapons or anything like that. Maybe if a portion of them had butter swords, like 10% had butter swords or something like that, then I could believe this fully. But if all of them have butter swords, then it's like, well, how many butter swords were down there to begin with? And you know, if the people who were down there with the pigs noticed these pigs transforming, you'd think they would go and take out the pigs before, you know, something bad were to happen, or the pigs were to fight back or something like that. You'd think the people would at least take out the pigs.
honestly, the only question I can answer about this mob is why they stand on 2 legs. I'm not 100% sure. Could be evolution, pigs learning to walk upright to use their hands to defend themselves in the violent nether, while also wanting fewer body parts touching the hot nether rack. It's possible, but I do think that we're onto something with this theory. Something that I suspect Mojang might just want to be cluing us in on. Because if we go back to more of that Minecon footage, as they reveal the new biomes for the nether,
What? They're biomes for the nether now?
one they spend a good amount of time on is the nether wart forest. And what do they explicitly show us
It looks
wandering
good.
around in there? The only mob, mind you, that they show us in this preview, a zombie pigman wandering through the woods, at home amongst the food and
Oh, so they're not getting rid of the zombie pigmen.
landscape that helped to make him what he is. He's a pig, ripped from his comfortable life in the overworld and brought down into the depths of heck to be used for the slaughter of the ancient people, but through random chance and a whole lot of fungus, becoming the start to a rival civilization bound for greatness, and then turning into zombies. But hey, that's
Wait, so in this new update, are the zombie pigmen only going to be in the forest now, or are they going to still be just as spread out as before? As well as piglins are now going to be a mob that's in the game too. I don't know. Freak, maybe I should have watched Minecon. I don't know, I couldn't put up with the cringe though. Whatever. I hope you guys like this video. I think this is an interesting theory. It's quite believable, and Matt did explain a lot of it. I still, the whole sword thing kind of bothers me. But, you know, besides from that, I think most of this is explained. And, yeah, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up if you're new. Hit subscribe to join the family. I'd give this theory out of a 10, 7.7. It's a pretty good theory. But, yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Boop!